Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we have a bit of a shorter video. I just want to, go over a brief introduction about the Cincinnati Bengals, and in tomorrow's video, we're gonna have a bit of a longer video about the Bengals' inaugural season in 1968. We're big spoiler for tomorrow's video, but yeah. So today is gonna be a shorter video. I just wanted to go over a brief introduction about the Cincinnati Bengals. So yeah, let's get into it. The Cincinnati Bengals were founded in 1968 by the famous head coach of the Cleveland Browns and later Cincinnati Bengals, Paul Brown. The Bengals started in the AFL in their first 2 seasons before joining the NFL in 1970. Paul Brown decided to name the football team Bengals because he was inspired by a book he read about the Bengal tiger while on a family trip in India during World War II. This name was meant to show strength, power, and courage. Another reason why he named them the Bengals was because of the short-lived Cincinnati football team that played in the 1930s and 40s. They were also called the Bengals. The Bengals are known for their iconic striped helmets, which were introduced in 1981. Paul Brown was the owner of the Bengals from 1968 to 1991, and Mike Brown has been the owner of the Bengals since 1991. With the support of Ohio Governor James A. Rhodes, the Bengals would be the second Cincinnati NFL/AFL team, and Paul Brown would be a part of an AFL expansion franchise. The Bengals joined the AFL Western Division and would start playing at Nippert Stadium until 1970. Nippert Stadium is now the stadium for the Cincinnati Bearcats, the college football team. Paul Brown was fired by the Cleveland Browns in 1963 and wanted to return to professional football, and he secured the team in 1967, and their inaugural season would be in 1968. One of the Bengals stars on the 1968 roster was Paul Robinson, who led the AFL in rushing. He had 1,023 yards on 238 carries, I believe, and he would also make the Pro Bowl last season, along with Bill Johnson and Bob Trumpy, who were both on the Bengals. The Bengals would start to play at Riverfront Stadium since it was being constructed, and they would play there till 1999, when it would be demolished in 2002. They would start playing at their current stadium, Paycor Stadium, in 2000, and earlier it was called Paul Brown Stadium, but now it is called Paycor Stadium. Riverfront Stadium was a multi-purpose sports stadium, in which would also be the home of the Cincinnati Reds for 30 years, which is the baseball team. It held approximately 56,200 people and would be home to many iconic Bengals games. They would make it to their first playoff game in their first year in the NFL, which was in 1970, after starting the season 1-6, but would have an insane comeback and end the season 8-6. Being led by Bengals quarterback Virgil Carter. The Bengals lost that game 17-0 in the playoffs, but the team they played, which were the Colts, would eventually win Super Bowl V. So they went against the eventual Super Bowl champions in their first season in the NFL. The Bengals would eventually make the playoffs again in 1973, led by Bengals QB Ken Anderson, but would lose to the Dolphins, who also ended up winning the Super Bowl that year, and they lost that game 16-34. One of Paul Brown's best choices was drafting offensive lineman Anthony Munoz in the 1980 NFL Draft. Anthony Munoz is a 9-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, and made the Super Bowl twice while protecting both MVP quarterbacks Ken Anderson and Boomer Esiason. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Ken Anderson won the MVP in 1981, and rookie receiver Chris Collinsworth was the first Bengals player to receive 1,000 yards. Approximately, he had 1,009 yards in his first season. So he was the first Bengals player to have 1,000 yards, and he did that in his rookie season. In the playoffs, the Bengals hosted their first home playoff game against the Buffalo Bills and won 28-21. In the AFC Championship game against the San Diego Chargers, which is also known as the Freezer Bowl. Fun fact, it was the second coldest game in NFL history, reaching temperatures of -9 degrees, and the coldest wind chill game in NFL history, with a wind chill of -59 degrees. The Bengals destroyed the Chargers that game, 27-27, and in that game, the only player who was injured due to the weather was Eddie Edwards, who had a frostbitten right ear. In the Super Bowl against the 49ers, Ken Anderson had nearly 300 passing yards, while Joe Montana only had 157. But the Bengals had 4 turnovers, leading to 17 49ers points scored in the first half. The Bengals brought the game back up to 20-14 before San Francisco scored 2 more field goals. Cincinnati scored another touchdown with 17 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter, and the onside kick was not successful, making the 49ers Super Bowl champions. Final score 26-21. In 1984, Sam Witch, who was a former Bengals quarterback, became the Bengals head coach, and in 1985, Ken Anderson would give the QB position to Boomer Esiason. In 1988, the Bengals would get the best record in the AFC, once again going 12-4, and beating the Bills in the AFC Championship before losing to the 49ers in the Super Bowl once again, 20-16. The Bengals were one of the original teams to start the no-huddle offense, which was very effective and very influential, and many teams started doing the no-huddle offense. In the 90s, the Bengals had little to no success, and there was a period of hope when Corey Dillon had joined the team, Bengals all-time rushing leader with 8,061 yards, but it still wasn't enough. On August 19th, 2000, the Bengals opened Paul Brown Stadium, better known as Paycor Stadium, it was named after the founder of the Cincinnati Bengals. It is nicknamed the Jungle because of its jungle-like appearance, and since the Bengal tiger is home to jungles. Paycor Stadium was a $455 million project that was started in April 1998. Some of the features that Paycor Stadium has are a sleek design, improved sightlines, better concessions, more restrooms, luxury suites, and enhanced fan amenities. Paycor Stadium is located right next to the Ohio River, and their first game at Paycor Stadium was a preseason game against the Chicago Bears. Their first regular season game at Paycor Stadium was on September 19th, 2000, against the Cleveland Browns. Another reason why Paycor Stadium is nicknamed the Jungle is because of its Bengals tiger natural habitat look, and because the Bengals always play Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, making it their unofficial anthem. The opening of Paycor Stadium showed that there was new hope for the franchise. Fans had better engagement, and it was named after the founder of the Bengals before being named Paycor Stadium. The Bengals' playoff drought would finally end in 2005 when quarterback Carson Palmer and wide receiver Chad Johnson, also known as Chad Ochocinco, made it to the wild card against the Steelers and lost that game 17-31. The Steelers would end up winning the Super Bowl again against the Seattle Seahawks, which is a very controversial game. In 2009, the Bengals would make the playoffs once again and would lose to the Jets in the first round, 14-24. From 2011 to 2015, the Bengals made it to the playoffs every year but lost in the first round every time. The Bengals wouldn't make it again to the playoffs until the 2020-2021 season, when second-year Joe Burrow, rookie Jamar Chase, and Zach Taylor, who led the Bengals to Super Bowl 56 against the Rams. The Bengals lost heartbreakingly, and at one point, they did have the lead. The next year, the Bengals would make it to the AFC Championship against the Chiefs, but would ultimately lose this time. The Bengals haven't had any playoff success since then, but in 2024, Joe Burrow had a career-high 4,918 passing yards and 43 touchdowns. Jamar Chase also had a receiving high year of 1,708 yards. Joe Burrow has dealt with many injuries, which hasn't helped, and the Bengals defense has been playing very poorly in the last season or two. But during the 2026 offseason, the Bengals signed defensive players including Dexter Lawrence II, Jonathan Allen, Brian Cook, Boyan Mafe, and Joe Burrow is fully recovered, and the Bengals have had a very good offseason so far, with almost everyone participating in all the practices and OTAs. These include players like Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase acting as, being role models for the Bengals. Yeah, and that is a brief introduction of the Cincinnati Bengals. And like I said, we will do a more in-depth video of their first season in the AFL tomorrow. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great Monday. And I'll see you in the next one. Hoo day.